Okay, wow, man, you guys, you can't get enough, can ya? By now, you know this series is not for the faint of heart. Genius killers to manipulative leaders, today's list features people who are more terrifying than literature's most infamous killer, Hannibal Lecter. Truth certainly is scarier than fiction. Welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Hey guys, I'm your host Rachel Fisher, and today we review our top 10 list of real people scarier than Hannibal Lecter. Part 3. Let's go. Number 10. Belle Gunness. Originally from Norway, Belle Gunness was a serial killer who plagued Indiana and Illinois with one mysterious death after another. In the 20th century, Belle killed over 40 people, including members of her own family, and potentially faked her own death. She was never caught. She was very tall, around 250 pounds, and had 3 children who all died on April 27, 1908 when her house mysteriously caught on fire. Gunness was presumed dead, but when they started sifting through the wreckage, the townsfolk made a horrific discovery. They found the bodies of her children, though one headless body that didn't align with Belle herself, so where was she? Many townspeople claimed that relatives had visited her farm and never returned. Another recalled a hired farmhand named Joe Maxon was often seen covering up large holes near the hog pen. They got to digging and soon 40 bodies were discovered, and that was just at this farm. Upon investigation, it was also discovered that she killed all of her husbands and even their daughters and sons they brought with them in order to gain insurance policies. She would also lure men with ads that read, and I quote, "Personal comely widow who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts in LaPorte County, Illinois, desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided with view of joining fortunes. No replies by letter considered unless sender is willing to follow the answer with a personal visit. Triflers need not apply." Yeah. No surprise when belongings of the men who answered her call were found in the pit. Whew. Vicious. Number 9. Rodney Alcala. There's actually a movie coming out about this with Anna Kendrick playing Cheryl.
Bachelor number 1. You're a dirty old man. Take it.
Oh, come on, over here.
Dating is really hard. It's so hard. It sucks. It sucks. It's the worst. And having out there really doesn't help. You have to text your friends, let them know where you're going. You could meet a guy who says all the right things, ticks all your boxes, but then he turns out to be Rodney Alcala. During the 1970s, Rodney claimed the lives of 9 women of varying ages, though many suspect the number could be as high as 100. He's still confessing to murders to this day. His method was triangulation, but in most cases he would wait for the woman to regain consciousness before he made the final kill. He would also arrange the corpses in poses, taking photos as keepsakes because he was studying film. And he was a photographer. Whoopee. One of the reasons that Alcala is so famous beyond his murders is because of his appearance on the dating show. Cheryl Bradshaw was the Bachelorette, and thank goodness she wasn't convinced by his disarming charms. Bradshaw said, quote, "I started to feel ill, he was acting really creepy," unquote. Trust your gut, folks. If it's too good to be true, chances are it is. Number 8. Issei Sagawa. After you hear what this guy did, you will be very shocked to learn that he is free and walking the streets of Japan. In 1981, Sagawa shot and killed his friend Renee Hartfelt, and then he ate her, something he wanted to do for over 32 years. Over a 2-day period, I might add. Like another person we're gonna mention later, he believed that by doing so he could absorb her beauty. Oh, and he also committed, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, you two might get mad at me, but his desires first began upon seeing his classmates' thighs when he was younger and thinking they looked delicious. Eventually that grew into a desire to carry out the ritual of killing a woman, any woman. He did go to a psychiatrist about it, who classified him as highly dangerous, but when his rich father found out, he covered it up and sent him to school in Sorbonne, France, which is where he met Renee. He gained her trust, invited her over for dinner, befriended her, and then, when the time was right, he shot her. He packed up what was left of her corpse into suitcases and took a cab over to a park and dropped them off. But bystanders saw the blood leaking and called the police. He admitted it, flat out, was declared insane, deported back to Japan where he was supposed to stay in a mental institution for the rest of his life, but they declared him sane when he got there, and since the case was dropped in France, he only had to stay for 15 months. He is now free, walks the streets, and says that he still has the same desires, though he wants it to be a Japanese woman, specifically now, so. Number 7. The Love Slave Killers. To say Charlene Williams was intelligent is an understatement. She had an IQ of 160. But she had trouble finding love, as I mentioned dating sucks, after 2 failed marriages, and that is until she met Gerald Gallego. Together, the two hunted and kidnapped 10 young women who Gerald would sexually torment before they were shot or strangled. They killed across 3 states between 1978 and 1980 until a bystander witnessed an abduction and noted the license plate. Charlene was only sentenced to 16 years while Gerald was put on death row. Charlene made a plea that she couldn't stop Gerald and that it was all him who killed the women. To this day, she insists that she never agreed to any of his plans and that she even tried to set them free, saying, and I quote, "I would have done anything if I could have stopped him. I know I couldn't have stopped him. I tried to stop him," unquote. So jury is still out as to how involved Charlene was with the crimes, but as she has been released from prison, time will only tell if more bodies turn up. And now she's doing charity work, which is great, I guess. Number 6. Dennis Nilson. Nilson was born in Fraserburgh and is one of Britain's most infamous killers. He confessed to killing and dismembering 15 young men and dissected their bodies, though it could have been more. When he was finally caught in 1983, police began to link a series of lucky escapes and incidents over the 5 years prior. Had they took them into more consideration, they might have caught him earlier. Nilson was never okay with his sexuality and chose to manifest his desires in a murderous way. He would befriend these men at pubs and bars, disarming them with friendly discourse before luring them home. There he would kill them and reportedly sit with their corpse before taking them apart in order to dispose of the body. He flushed a lot of the remains down the toilet, but little did he know that would get him caught. A neighbor called the plumber to unblock the drain outside, and lo and behold, that would have been an awful day at work. Like one of the worst. Talk about dirty jobs. He was sentenced to life in prison but reportedly died in agony after surgery complications in 2018. Number 5. Harold Shipman. Like Hannibal, Shipman was a doctor. Though not in the same field, he had the similar lethal intentions as Lecter. Shipman's mother died when he was only 17 and immediately decided that he wanted to pursue a career in medicine. So he attended the University of Leeds and failed his entrance exam once before his placement. He became addicted to the painkiller pethidine and got caught forging prescriptions. Following rehab, he got hired at the Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde, and it was there that he would take the lives of over 260 patients. 260. He would lethally inject them with opiate painkillers and nobody thought anything of it. The local undertaker did notice that Shipman's patients were always found sitting or reclined on a couch or sofa, but still, nothing to worry about. But when Angela Woodruff's mother died, leaving behind a will giving everything to Shipman, she knew. Her mother had just been to see Shipman that day, and were it not for Angela, Shipman may have taken many more lives. No one knows why he did. Perhaps he was trying to avenge his mother's death, or maybe he liked playing God. Either way, the Doctor of Death title suits him pretty well, I think. Number 4. Luka Magnotta. This guy, seriously, almost made the top 3, because to this day, his crimes haunt me. If you've ever watched the documentary Don't Fuck With Cats, then you know his name. Or if you lived in Toronto area, you know his name. I watched it having no idea what it was about, and I still can't shake it. I literally cried for days. I couldn't wrap my head around the things that he'd done and the things that I saw. Warning, the documentary gets pretty graphic, right Chris? Yes, it does. Scarborough, Ontario native Luka Magnotta started out like most serial killers, killing animals in brutal and public ways. He is a pathological narcissist who would film his graphic crimes and post them on the internet for all to see. First against animals and then onto bigger game. In May of 2012, he filmed the brutal killing and dismemberment of Chinese Concordia student Jun Lin with an ice pick. He was obsessed with the movie Basic Instinct. Since the first cat video surfaced, internet volunteers had been profiling him online for years and knew what was about to happen before the event itself. He was obsessed with himself, creating fake fan accounts, praising pictures, and editing fake ones with friends. He did everything he could for attention, and the pathway towards his bloody deed is so inhuman. But apparently, he's doing just fine in prison. He even got married recently. Glad you're happy. Number 3. Charles Manson. Yup. You know that name. If you don't, here is why he is on this list. It's one thing to kill someone, or even a bunch of people, but it's a whole other ballgame to convince other people to do it for you. When you Google the word cult, Manson will probably come up front and center. Charles ran a cult in the 1960s known as the Manson family, a group of small but heavily devoted individuals who followed his eccentric religious teachings. His ideas were drawn from science fiction and the occult and preached that an apocalyptic race war was coming. To bond them together, he ordered them to carry out killings so that they would remain united. Basically, they wouldn't leave because they had something that he could hold over them, I don't know. But the group obeyed, which led to the death of actress Sharon Tate, who was pregnant at the time, Benedict Canyon, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, Gary Hinman, and Donald Shorty Shea, plus 4 more. Rumor has it the reason he attacked Tate's house was because the music producer who used to live there refused to make a record with Manson. Yeah. Number 2. Elizabeth Bathory. If you thought Vlad the Impaler was bad, well, yeah, I mean he was. But when it comes to bloodlust, I think Elizabeth Bathory takes the cake on this one. She was born on August 7th, 1560 in Hungary in a prominent Protestant noble family. Her uncle Stephen Bathory was king of Poland, and the rest of her family basically controlled all of Transylvania. She was an untouchable nightmare. She married a war hero named Count Ferenc Nadasny, who gifted her an estate and perhaps the skills in which she used to kill and maim. After he died, Elizabeth took over the estate and suddenly young women went missing. Bathory became obsessed with the idea of immortality and believed that bathing in the blood of virgins was the key. But she did more than that. She would lure girls to the castle, even daughters of other nobility, in the guise of work or education. Before draining them of their blood, she would slice, stab, sew their mouths shut, leave them out in the cold, cover them in honey so bees would sting them, and she would bite off their flesh from their face and other intimate parts. When she was satisfied, her servants drained the blood into a bath. According to her journal, she killed just around 650 women. 650 women. When she was finally caught, 3 of her servants were executed, but she was simply locked away in her tower for the rest of her days. Dracula can take a seat, for she was the stuff of nightmares. Okay, number 1, guys, and I know you're kind of expecting it to be someone, I think maybe, but I'm not gonna do it. Because we already know about him. And his name rhymes with Rudolph. Number 1, Paul Joseph Goebbels. If you know your World War II history, then you know there was an infamous German leader that led one of the largest atrocities in history. YouTube won't let me say his name for some reason, but you know who I'm talking about. Obviously he would be number 1 on this list, but I remember learning about Goebbels thinking, who really did it? He was able to use propaganda to turn an entire country against one group of people. Some would even argue that he was even better at public speaking than Adolf was. He regulated all the media content of Germany and forced all Jewish artists, actors, musicians, directors, magazine editors into unemployment, ensuring anything that went out presented his leader faithfully and also was anti-Semitic. He staged a public burning of books that were considered un-German. Though Adolf was the figurehead we all remember, it is because of Goebbels that an entire anti-Semitic movement led to the lives of 6 million people being lost. He himself was a fanatic, despite at one time being engaged to a Jewish woman, and all his favorite teachers growing up were apparently Jewish. Maybe he never physically got his hands dirty, but he didn't need to. He had enough people to do it for him. If you're somehow not convinced that he should be number 1, then I invite you to picture this. Goebbels was able to convince an entire country to hate, betray, and kill with a few films, speeches, and radio. Imagine what he could have done with social media. And that, my friends, was yet another really crazy dark top 10 list of the scum of society. Did you like it? What a weird question to answer considering the topic, but if you did, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and comment on who you think we missed. There's sadly no shortage of individuals because, let's face it, they're all scarier than Hannibal for the mere and simple fact that they are real. I've been your host, Rachel Fisher, and until next time, guys, stay safe and take care. By now, you know this series is not for the faint of heart. From genius killers to manipulative, wow. Haha, I'm so screwed. But this series is not for the faint of heart. From genius killers to manipulative, wow.